Hi everybody. My poinsettia is in the way. It's dying and it just really should be put outside. Welcome back to Front Porch Catholic, where we talk about the grit and glory of domestic life on our Ohio hobby farm. Here it is. Guilty party. Today I brought you into the library because we're going to talk about books. Joe and I mentioned in one of our more recent videos how very valuable books have been to us on our hobby farm journey, and so we're going to just share with you some of our very favorites, talk about why they're our favorites and why we've actually taken the time to purchase some of them, including this one which Santa Claus brought. Thank you, Santa. We like to go to our library too. It's where many of our books were, where this one was before I bought it. And hopefully you'll be able to learn enough to start your own personal hobby farm library, your own reference library, or maybe you'll just know where to go in your own public library, where to get started. So whether you're just starting out in hobby farming, or you're just kind of like indulging a little wanderlust and thinking about it, or maybe you're a professional. In any case, I think that you guys will benefit from hearing about these favorite books of ours. Well, it's January, and we have a lot of seed catalogs coming in the mail, a lot of advertisements. People are looking forward to their fall crops, so everybody has homesteading and hobby farming online, I think. At least I do, this time of year especially. So we can spend a lot of time with our books. So what are your favorite books? I already introed this video. So.
Oh, well, it's favorite books, but it's also, for me, books that were instrumental in me getting interested and involved.
Giving birth to your hobby farm dreams.
Giving birth is gross.
We have books on that too. Those would have made the list for me, but I thought that's kind of a select audience.
Yeah.
We've had, yeah.
So a couple of my books. Are we gonna do I'm gonna do all of mine, and then you're gonna do all yours? We're gonna alternate.
Oh, we'll just have a conversation.
I had eight or nine.
Well, I counted up some of our books, and we have about 75 to 80 books that have to do with hobby farming, homesteading, from carpentry to how to harness power to how to sew, how to raise rabbits, how to garden, the self-sufficient life and how to live it. Most
of my books we don't have, actually. They're from the library.
I know. Mm-hmm.
So this is one that's like a dreamer book, sort of, but it gets you dreaming. John Seymour, The Self-Sufficient Life and How to Live It, the classic back to basics guide to going off the grid.
We probably will never go off the grid because we value electricity and plastic in the 21st century.
Yeah, electricity more than plastic, but that stuff. Anyways, this has been republished like, I don't know, 5 times, and John Seymour, he's passed away, but it's an interesting read. Mm-hmm. That's one that got me thinking about things and desiring to move out of the city when we still lived in the town. We didn't live in a city, lived in town.
Yeah. Well, I remember one of our early trips to the library. I think actually you got it first, and I read it maybe a year after you read it the first time. It's called The Sensuous Garden by Monty Don. He's a British guy. He's all over BBC networks. He's got shows. He's got a lot of books written. But he's a gardener, and it's just filled with, I don't know if I can do this, beautiful pictures of beautiful flowers and landscapes. And it's a dreamer book. Like, it just kind of got me appreciating beauty in the garden and the home and wanting to like have that. I like to see examples. I like to see beauty, and that makes me just want to do it and make it. I think that's kind of a common hobby farmer dream.
One of Monty Don's books was one that I read a lot. I think I checked it out every time I went to the library. So I read it a dozen times, maybe 25 times, and it's called The Complete Gardener. And I think it's actually the first Monty Don book that I ever read was The Complete Gardener. I just happened to find it because it was in the gardening section of our local library. Mm-hmm. And gardening has much more so been sort of my passion than homesteading per se. I always wanted to live in the country, but gardening is the thing that I get excited about. It's the seed catalogs, but it's the seed catalogs and the flower catalogs and the plant catalogs and those sorts of things. And so that was one of the books that I still love.
Mm-hmm. Good. I have a book that is called Drink the Harvest. And like Joe and the gardening, my first garden in our married life that I had like total control over and sole control over maybe was the herb garden. And mostly because I used herbs in cooking, and I had an herb garden right out the back door of our first country house. And when I got this book, Drink the Harvest, I really got it because I wanted to learn to ferment things, mostly hard cider, and Perry, which is like hard pear cider. It's hard to find around here in Ohio, and it's not in the store. So I wanted to make it because we had a pear tree. So this book is a very straightforward how to make different juices, teas, how to ferment things, all using herbs, fruits, potatoes, anything that's growing. Basically, you can somehow ferment or turn into a mead or a juice or a cider. And this book, who's it by? Well, I'll write it in the show notes, but Drink the Harvest is a really good manual, almost a cookbook, but also beautiful, shows you equipment.
Chase and Guest. The guy's name is Guest. Or her. Her name is Denise.
They're
His
women.
name, Denise. Denise.
It's ladies.
Denise Guest.
Nan and Denise. So
Erica likes to drink. That's why she got Drink the Harvest.
this is just coffee with
Erica's
organic
is
creamer.
coffee with loads of creamer and sugar. Mine's just coffee.
Supporting the dairy industry. Actually, it is dairy. It is milk. It's not like fake stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then some other books we don't happen to have. One of which is a Joel Salatin book. I've got a Joel Salatin on mine.
It's pronounced Salatin.
Joel Salatin. It's how I've pronounced it for 20 years before I heard him on YouTube. So I'll probably keep saying Joel Salatin in my mind.
Who's that?
It was, I think it's one of his earliest, maybe his earliest book, You Can Farm. And I read it, like I said, probably 20 years ago. Maybe not quite, but pretty close to 20 years ago. I read it, and it was the one that sort of got me thinking or unthinking or thinking differently about farming and things you could do in the country, and really like building the soil, because that in You Can Farm, that's a big part of it, and how you could make money. And that's always been it. We've never really made any money, not much anyways.
We do it for the love. We do it for the love.
But
We did a farmer's market once.
yeah,
I don't know if we made any
I
money
think we
then.
lost money.
Yeah.
We made money with the donkeys. We have.
With the donkeys, yeah. Livestock, it's easy to make money. Easier for us to make money on a small scale with livestock than it is with garden vegetables and flowers. But
it was an inspirational book.
yeah, that's sweet. I also have a Joel Salatin book. Now I don't know how to say
Salad. I don't remember how to say it right.
Joel,
either.
let us know. Is Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. That's the title of the book. It's a hilarious title, which maybe made me think about it. But if you know, I'm sure you know who Joel is. I started reading his book because we were going to get our first pair of breeding pigs. We got American guinea hogs. I wanted to have the piglet experience to raise meat. I know that animals, like anything you make a mistake with, can become your dinner. So anyway, I wanted to know, like, why couldn't I have my butcher give me back my offal, or like the innards of the pig? Like we get back the liver, but other stuff that you cook right away, why can't we get that back? And there's all kind of like government red tape, and he explains that and kind of cuts through that and helps you understand it and how he navigated it and was able to be successful with his animals and food. And he talked also about like chainsawing, milling, and you were just getting into that. But I remember distinctly reading this book when I was like really sick with one of the children I was pregnant with. I was outside, it was sunny, and I was laughing reading Joel's book about everything he wants to do is illegal. So get that one, it's a good one.
So you can see Erica's theme here is drinking and doing things that are illegal.
Hey, I'm home all day. Hey, look.
All right, a couple others for me. Can I do
Duck
two now?
Dynasty joke. Yeah.
One of which is The Backyard Lumberjack by Frank and Stephen Philbrick.
You're kind of
It's The Backyard Lumberjack. And they were the ones, I don't remember who wrote most of it, but anyways, it was about these two guys, sort of, and it was supposed to be a how-to book, but really it was about their lives and what they did, and they split wood by hand. And I'd been cutting wood for a long time, and we had been splitting wood because we had a wood stove at the time that I read it, so it wasn't like I didn't do any of this already. I'd been doing it for years. I've been helping my dad my whole life cut and split wood with a chainsaw and a wood splitter, and they were just talking about the ability to split wood by hand and storing up wood for when I was like, that's true. There's no reason for me to get a wood splitter when I could split it by hand.
And get really strong doing it, right?
So I have
Look at those guns.
huge
Woo!
muscles.
And now your sons
Anyways,
do it.
And now my sons
I've done
split
it.
wood by hand.
It's pretty sweet swinging a mole.
A mole?
Maul.
Oh.
M-A-U-L. It's like the big axe thing, but it's not an axe.
Yeah. And I think my last book is called The Story of Gardening by Penelope Hobhouse. And it is the story of gardening. It's the history of gardening. And so that appealed to me because it's the history of something. I enjoy history. It had loads of good pictures, and it introduced me to like landscape architecture, really, which I find fascinating. At one point in my life, I contemplated switching careers and going into landscape architecture, trying to anyways. But it was where I was introduced to some great landscapes, gardens around the world, around the United States.
Monty Don, again, has a book about around the world in 80 gardens. We've seen,
He
like,
does.
there's a series too, a video series.
Yeah.
That's
And she's the one who, in her book, I think that's where I first learned about Frederick Law Olmsted, who designed the gardens at Biltmore, and he designed Central Park in New York City, and he became sort of an inspiration to me in landscape architecture, even though I don't do landscape architecture.
You make really pretty gardens. Joe's got an eye for design. So.
I make some things grow.
I've got a lot of chicken books that are on my list, but mostly I go for like practical things and picture books. And there's loads of them at the library, so I won't name one. But a homestead book that I like is a periodical. I actually have two periodicals. One's not in print anymore, but you can get it digitally. It's Martha Stewart's.
Everyday living.
No, not Everyday Living. It's Everyday Food.
Everyday food.
It's like lays out a grocery list for your whole week, a shopping list. It gives you recipes that are very simple and easy. And I feel like I turned into a gourmet chef following that for a couple months. Sister Rita Schmidt gave me a copy that she got in the mail for free, and she just said you should. Yeah, thank you, Sister Rita. But another periodical is a Magnificat. It's not a magazine; it's a prayer book, but it's a really big part of our family life on our hobby farm is our Catholic identity. And every day we just pray in union with the whole church, who prays these same prayers every day. It's basically a condensed and shortened version of the Liturgy of the Hours. So like monks, priests, nuns, and laity all around the world, in every country, every language, use some form of this prayer. So it's got scripture in it, intercession, all kind of good things. So get to steep ourselves in that a little bit too, every day with the family. So we can do what we do here with, I don't know, success.
And I have the last periodical too. Mine's not holy. Hopefully nobody views it as holy. It's the Organic Gardening magazine. It used to be called Organic Gardening and Farming, or Farming and Gardening. And I grew up with it. My parents subscribed to it when I was little. I remember reading it as a youngster. So after I could read, growing up, reading it. And then when we lived in town still, I found on eBay somebody had like a box lot of old organic gardening and farming magazines, like from the 1970s and 80s or whenever it started.
The real deal.
They were thick too, and they had like full articles, not as many pictures. So if you're in for the pictures, get the newer ones. But loads of information and stories and stuff, and I just read them. I devoured them voraciously when I was living in town, and therefore living sort of vicariously through what I read.
Yeah, wanderlust. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
When it compels you to do something great. So, yeah, those are our favorite books. Some of our favorite books. I mean, really, the list it could probably be endless. But, yeah.
It does bring up, though, an interesting point of contention, which is, because we've referred to our place multiple times as a homestead or a hobby farm.
Yeah, what are we?
So, which one is it? A homestead or a hobby farm?
Well, I think it's a hobby farm because we don't really earn money or living by living how we live. We do it for the love of it, and we love doing it. And it is farming. We've got livestock and plants in a garden. Sometimes we sell stuff. Mostly we eat stuff. But what's a homestead? Is it like the making of?
I think it's a partial homestead because we're building lots of buildings and we're fencing things and we're adding animals and infrastructure. Mm-hmm. But you could also argue that it's a hobby farm.
Maybe you can let us know. What are we?
Homestead,
or
hobby farm, or just two people
with a lot of kids. Well, thanks for listening. We hope you like and subscribe to Front Porch Catholic. Let us know for a hobby farm or homestead, and we'll see you in the next video.
If you got a good book to recommend,
put it in the comments.
Cheers.
We love reading.
Some things.